All right, there you go, man. So, in the subject of feeling great, obviously, you come on, you play the song, you get the goal scorer, the goal scorer song. Uh, from your eyes, man, let's hear what the beautiful thoughts are, regarding your beloved Les Bleus.
It all started yesterday. I was playing pickleball with some of the guys, and we got dinner after some great runs. We played a little over 2 hours. Legs sore, feet sore, you name it. In line at dinner, and one of the homies asked me, "How you feeling for tomorrow? Are you nervous?" And I looked at him and I said, "No." And he starts laughing. He starts laughing, and I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm not nervous." And um, I think today's game just really um, showed why I wasn't nervous. Showed why I wasn't nervous, and when the lineups came out, no surprises for France, right? Bacolon is yellow. You didn't expect him to start, um, and just lineup was the same, right? No changes. Your typical lineup. Now for Morocco, I won't lie to you, I was surprised. First, when I recorded the preview of the game, I was seeing articles that they were encouraged by the MRI for Saibari, and they got good news that there was no uh, muscular damage, I believe they said. And I said on the air, I said, okay, he's probably going to play. They're not going to reveal their hand and whatnot. And then maybe about 2 hours before, turns out he's not. Okay, I mean, they're the sub that came on against Canada, Rahimi, he looked pretty good. So I thought he would start. Um, but what surprised me the most was uh, Onahi's decision to have Nusser Mazraoui play at center back alongside Issa Diop. Because Mazraoui has been playing at right back, and the center back pairing has been Radouan Halal with Issa. So I saw that and I said, okay, I mean that's interesting. Nusser brings a lot, right? Going forward, pushes the ball up, can really attack as a fullback. And then other than that, he did have, instead of Rahimi who came on, it was Shamsdeen Talbi up top at striker. Um, and from those two changes, I can understand why he wanted to start Talbi, because he's fast, right? You can tell when you're watching the game. You know, he plays at Sunderland. Kid got wheels on him, right? So he's fast. But with Mazraoui, I was like, wow, okay. I mean, are you trying to sacrifice what's worked out for you? And I truly think in my heart of hearts, man, I think the Moroccan coach got it wrong. And what I mean by that is that isn't Morocco's formula with this group of players, with this player pool that they have. Their formula is not to sit back and defend, right? They all tournament they've been playing on the front foot. They've generated a lot of chances. They've looked dangerous, and as a unit collectively, they would come back and defend. But they really, I mean, I was again, I was very very surprised. And I mean, dude, I'll give you the numbers here. At halftime, they didn't have a single shot. Okay, that's number one. And then the game ends with Morocco's expected goals at 0.14. One shot on goal, which came off of that free kick where Hakimi lays it off. I forget who took the shot. Comfortable save for Mike Magnan, right? I mean, dude, Mike Magnan could have. he could have slept on the field for about 85 minutes of the game, and nothing would have happened. But yeah, I was very surprised at Morocco's game plan. I didn't think they would play like that. Maybe they saw what they saw Paraguay's game plan, and they thought, okay, we need to replicate that. But I mean, that's just not your strong suit. And um, with Kylian's penalty kick, I was I think everybody was surprised he missed. Remember, I did mention on air on Tuesday that Bonu's excellent at penalties. He did his little trick thing, played a little bit of mind games, and after the stutter step from Kylian didn't fool him, and he guessed right. But even after that, man, they just looked comfortable. I mean, early in the game, Dayut had a great chance for a header, um, and frankly, they just didn't allow. They suffocated Morocco in the midfield. I talked about it on Tuesday. I said that I don't think Ayoub Boadi can handle this type of pressure at 18 years old with that midfield three. He got subbed off around minute 60 to bring in Amrabat. I mean, that didn't make a difference by any stretch, but I think Morocco's coach was just trying anything at that point. But yeah, in my opinion, I think Morocco got it wrong. Um, when you have the type of players that you do, um, that should not be your strategy against Les Bleus. Kylian with an excellent goal. I mean, 20 20 goals in 20 World Cup games. He's now at 8 goals in this tournament. Dembele with also an excellent goal. I don't know if you saw at the end there, but he laid the ball off to Olise, uh, for him to get on the score sheet. Olise missed his chance, but all of that to say, Dembele could have gotten a brace this game. Doué looked excellent. It's Desiree Doué, for God's sake. And then even Bacola coming on as a sub. He looks excellent. And you know what? Les Bleus just look comfortable out there, dude. There wasn't a moment in time where I was, and you remember I was texting, our group during the game in the first half there. I wasn't phased whatsoever. And on to the next. As far as Morocco, um, second straight World Cup for them. They run into Les Bleus, and they crash out, but um, still a lot to be proud for them, and it'll be exciting for them to be one of the co-hosts for the next World Cup.
Yeah, I find it so you think that Morocco should have played more on the front foot. I find that fascinating. I think, I guess that could be debated in due time, but I think just in the immediacy of it, I think definitely, I mean, regardless of the tactical decisions, I mean, France are just, I mean, we even kind of, even before the tournament, and it's only just kind of been confirmed with how they played. I mean, it's just, I mean, when you get those level of players and they all play together, uh, I mean, it's a tall task to beat them, and if anything, it goes to show you how good they are. That you mentioned, Morocco have been maybe playing differently all tournament, but that's in many ways how much they not only respect the talent level, but almost that was what they felt was going to be needed. That if they would have played their typical way, maybe they would have been even more wide open than it was, which is hard to believe because it felt like France were pretty comfortable regardless. Credit to Morocco, I guess. You mentioned the safe penalty. They were able to keep it scoreless at least for about what was it, 60 something minutes, 50 something minutes.
Yeah,
Uh,
60. Yeah, yeah.
but once. Mbappe scored the first one. I mean, it was done and dusted. And what a great goal that was. So I do want to ask you on the subject of him. Any concerns about him getting subbed off there? You think that's just more precautionary and nothing really to sweat about?
Strictly precautionary. He's walking just fine. He had ice on the top of his foot near his ankle. No, he's a okay. Nothing to worry
Uh-huh.
about.
All right. Well, Morocco done and dusted. Put him in the back of the, you know, in the back burner. That they're eliminated. Their run just like 4 years ago ends to your French. On to the semifinals, man.
Yeah, yeah, and just on your note about Kylian, pulling up his direct quote right now. Uh, Jean-Philippe Mateta was in a better position to play the remaining minutes of the match and was fitter at that moment. That's all that happened. So there you have it. There you have it.
There you
Oh, and also
go.
about the game. Um, I'm really happy that Zaire Emery finally got some playing time. Um, you know, Manu Kone was playing on a yellow, and it was a good opportunity for him to get some game time in a match. He looked good out there, and the expectation is Aurelien Chouameni will be fit and ready to go for the semis. So that's exciting, and all yellows are Dunzo. So everybody can play a little bit more on the aggressive side and whatnot. So we had a couple guys with going in with the yellows going into the game.
All right. On the subject of the semifinals, well, I guess while we're here, might as well preliminarily see what your thoughts are regarding the potential for either Spain or Belgium in the semifinals, and not only how you see that one going, but how you think that might fare in the semifinals, for either opponent.
Yeah, yeah. Let good opportunity for me to talk about the rest of the quarterfinal matchups. I haven't had the opportunity to do so yet. Starting off with tomorrow, of course, Spain, Belgium. Uh, I think I think Spain get it done. I can't. Maybe it'll be a close one, a 1-0. That's the way Spain have been playing this tournament. It kind of reminds me a lot, to be quite honest with you, of their run in 2010. They lost their opener to Switzerland. They didn't, blow anyone out by any stretch of the means during that run. They just played close, nervy games, 1-0, a 2-1 type of scenario. So yeah, that's what I think there. I think Spain go through, maybe Belgium make it interesting, but I can't see a scenario where Spain don't go through, and all signs will point to a Spain France semis. I'll definitely speak more on it if it comes to fruition. I'll do another proper preview like I did for the matchup against Morocco. I think that's it's the more appropriate thing to do. Imagine we're on air talking for 25 minutes, about about a matchup that doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, I get you.
while
You don't
while
want to
all
get you don't
signs
want to get
point
too
to it.
you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. I
Yeah,
get you.
yeah, yeah. While
Yeah,
all
I
signs
get you.
point to it.
But, it's always good preliminarily chop it up a little bit. But yeah, I get what
Yeah,
you mean.
yeah. No,
You
I
wanna
mean,
get
no, no. I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. It's an opportunity for Les Bleus to right the wrongs.
Yeah,
2024 Euro semis,
there you
um,
go.
where really, I mean, it was just there was that 10-minute stretch. Lamine individual brilliance, Danny Olmo individual brilliance. After Randall Colomwani scores to make it 1-0. And that was the difference. I will say, and I'll speak more on it if if it happens. I'll talk about that game because there's so much overlap within that Spanish team, right? Because remember last time in my preview for this game, I spoke heavily about the fact that I can't really draw much about that previous matchup because both teams are so different. That Spanish side is pretty darn identical, minus, I'm talking about Pedro Porro at playing at right back. But beyond that, dude, uh it's very, very similar. There's a lot of overlap there. So, it's the opportunity for them to get it right. For those that Nations League is part of it. Obviously, there's not much weight into that competition. Really, it was just UEFA trying to make these international breaks. The in between Euros and World Cup. A little bit more exciting, right? Um, they met in the semis and Spain won as well. So the last two matchups are in Spain's favor, but things are very, very different. And I do look forward to speaking a lot more about it if it gets there for sure.
All right. Well, like you said, not official yet. Can't sleep on Belgium too much, even if they're not the definitely not the favorite. And maybe not as strong as Belgium was when they played France in the semifinals. Wait, what was it 8 years ago? But well, yeah, like you said, you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. They still got to play. Anything can happen. It's the World Cup quarterfinals. It's not a complete foregone conclusion. But when it gets there, definitely a proper preview. For the semifinal. But while we're here, did you want to talk about the other two quarterfinal matchups, or in your eyes, or how do you want?
Yeah, yeah, dude,
You on
absolutely.
Saturday? All right, yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
we got Norway, England, and Miami, and then you got Argentina and Switzerland in Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, right. Question for you, in your opinion,
Yeah,
I don't think De Bruyne will start against Spain tomorrow. Um, Nor Lukaku, simply because Lukaku just does not have he's not fit anymore really to play 90 minutes. He barely played at Napoli this season. But I do think Doku starts. I do think Doku starts. That you need that pace, you need that creativity against the Spanish side. What do you think? Are you thinking the same thing, or is Rudy Garcia
yeah,
gonna roll with that lineup? Because Amadou Onana did tear his ACL actually,
yeah.
so
That was
maybe that
really
has an
tough. Man.
impact and Kevin De Bruyne does have to start.
Yeah, that's a good question, man. Obviously the Onana thing, you hate to see it, man. He's a fun player. So we can start with that. But yeah, that's a good question. I definitely think Lukaku's the more likely of the two to probably end up off the bench, especially because the matches that he has come off the bench, he's kind of given them a little bit of a spark and a lift. Uh,
Exactly.
I think that role at this point seems a little bit more solidified. As far as De Bruyne goes, I think maybe like you mentioned with the Onana piece, it might be a little bit more fluid, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was on the bench again. I think you know. It's obviously going to be a much different beast than the United States a couple of days ago. Against the United States, there was a lot more space that won't be there. Spain, you mentioned, they'll be comfortable to kind of squeeze it out 1-0. I don't think Spain's going to be, Spain. They're not going to beat themselves. That's a good question, though. As far as De Bruyne, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes off the bench again, even in spite of the Onana piece. I think they'll feel quite. I do agree that Doku will start. But yeah, I think this is going to be. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion necessarily that Spain will make it through. Obviously, I mean, look, Belgium aren't as strong as they used to be. Maybe 8 years ago, but at the same time, you don't make it to a World Cup quarterfinal if you suck complete ass. But I think I feel like this is like a one of it's got 1-0 written all over it. I feel like, Spain will go through. It'll be maybe similar to today. It'll be 0-0. Maybe not completely similar because France had a lot more chances in the first half. I think it'll be maybe somewhat similar to Portugal, Spain the other day. They'll kind of feel each other out a little bit, and either side will want to concede first, and they'll kind of uh, keep each other at arm's length for a little bit, and then Spain at some point will find a goal, and that'll be all they need.
Yeah, I think for Belgium to have a chance, Thibaut needs to have one of those vintage Courtois games. I'm thinking of his performance in the UCL final against Liverpool, the second go around. He needs one of those. He needs one of those games.
Yeah, definitely. And well, you know what though? I would even say I don't expect it would surprise me if Spain come out, flying on the front foot and putting like three past them in the first half. Like I think
Yeah,
They're gonna need Courtois for sure, but I think you mentioned Rudy Garcia. What they do tactically. Um, I wonder if Belgium will be comfortable. Like I mentioned, they're not playing the United States, so maybe against the United States they had a lot more space. I think Rudy Garcia and them. I'll be interested to see if they maybe like Morocco did today, play a little bit without the ball, and then when you are in possession, it's really more so just to kind of give yourself a breather. Like even when Morocco were when they had the ball today in the first half, it's not that they couldn't string together a couple of passes. It wasn't that, but they didn't really have much of a desire to go forward. They wanted to take their chances when they were there. I wonder in many ways. I think Belgium might set up similarly, um, and maybe try to get it to the second half, and then that's when you bring in like maybe Lukaku in the second half, and then you try to maybe if it's 0-0 still, then you try to maybe go for it a little bit. But I think Belgium will be content to keep it 0-0 as long as they can. I feel like that'll be, and then Spain will be comfortable in that as well. I think Spain will play like that as well, where kind of like against Portugal. There weren't really any maybe it's not that there weren't chances, but they'll feel comfortable that they won't concede themselves, and they'll take their time in opening up the game. I feel like both ways.
yeah, yeah. I hear you. That makes sense.
So I don't know, but yeah, I think if you put a gun to my head and you said you got to pick one, obviously I would take Spain, and I think, but I similar to you. I mean, so we would hate to spend 20, 30 minutes previewing a matchup that hasn't happened and won't happen, but we could
Right,
preview
right.
the match that is going to happen, and that's so. But yeah, going to Saturday's match, with Norway and England, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on both of these. I think we might agree on one, and maybe we might slightly disagree on the other one. With Norway and England, I think that's about it. I mean, even before France Morocco today, I think on paper that's the best quarterfinal. Just from a neutral's perspective, two sides that you can make the argument for both of them to make it through, and I'll be interested to see if you maybe lean one way or the other more confidently than I would, or if you think that is something that really is a true 50-50, and it could go either way.
Yeah, it's a true 50-50. Before the knockouts got started, I picked England in the final, and I'm gonna stick with that. But this is a true 50-50, and the big question mark is, will Reece James be fit on Saturday because Kwanzaa got a 2-game suspension, so he would miss this and the semis should they advance. It's a tough loss. They were already at the fullback position, a little light there. So for that to happen, yeah, I mean, if I'm Norway's manager and maybe Reese, isn't even in the starting 11 and he might have to come off the bench because he can't play a full 90. I'm attacking that side all day. I will instruct Erling Haaland to hover around there and cut in and do what you got. You know what I mean? Like I would attack the right side of the field all game if that's the case. Talk about Harry Kane, Erling Haaland. What a great battle! What a treat for us to have in the quarterfinals. I think Tuchel is going to instruct Declan Rice to man mark Erling. Follow him everywhere. Mark Gahey is gonna follow him everywhere as well. I mean, these guys are teammates now. That's gonna be a great matchup. And I think the key thing is the X factor is gonna be who plays better between Jude Bellingham and Martin Odegaard. I spoke on Jude last time when we talked about Mexico England. The tournament he's having is fairly under the radar just because Harry Kane is his teammate, but he's having an exceptional tournament. And if England want to win, they need to score more than a goal. I'll tell you that much because Norway will get on the score sheet. I have no doubt in my mind. So it's a matter of what version of England are you going to see? Can Norway's defense keep up with Harry Kane, with Jude? Anthony Gordon played really well. Bukayo looked good before the substitution. A lot of question marks, and I think it's gonna come down to who's the better coach and what uh, and what type of impact substitutes will have.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think what's fascinating, I know you're a big Tuchel guy. It goes without saying, that's your guy. I'll be interested to see, because when Brazil played Norway, and Norway, obviously Norway played Brazil. Norway really dominated the ball, and when England was playing Mexico, we talked about it the other day, where Mexico were comfortable, playing in a low block and kind of allowing Mexico to have the majority of the ball, especially in the second half when I went down to 10 men. You mentioned the red card. I mean, I think England had the ball for like 20% of the time for the
Yeah.
last like 40 minutes of the match. Um, so what I'll be fascinated by, and I'll be interested to see your perspective on this, is do you expect Tuchel in England to set up in a similar way where they will be comfortable playing with less of the ball, playing in a low block and absorbing Norwegian pressure? Or do you expect that possession figure to maybe even out a little bit more? Or do you foresee that maybe England will play a little bit like that again, and then kind of absorb that pressure and try to hit back on the count? Like, how do you see that tactical element? You mentioned the managerial piece. So that's why I feel like it'd be a. What do you forecast in that aspect?
I think you have to look at the film between Brazil and Norway, and Ancelotti tried to do that, right? Where he tried to absorb that pressure and attempt to hit him on the counter, especially in that second half. I mean, maybe it was a matter of just Brazil's midfield had tired legs. I'm speaking of Casemiro and whatnot, and his age. But yeah, I mean, Brazil allowed Norway to have possession, and it backfired heavily on them. So I would study that, and I definitely think that, um, there's no they're playing here in the U.S., right? It's not that altitude stuff. You're not playing against a host nation, blah blah blah. So I think they're gonna approach the game differently for sure.
Okay, interesting. All right, well, I guess we'll come back and we'll find out in a couple of days which one of those rings true of how they end up setting tactically. But then in that last one, still in Argentina, I think this one might be an area where. So I know in the past you've come on here, you've talked about the Swiss. I know we've talked about Argentina and kind of like their maybe the draw that they had before, when the bracket came out from the round of 32 onwards. I know something that you came on here and said was, Argentina on paper got a really good draw with Cape Verde and Egypt. Um, And now here we are. It's the quarterfinal. They made it past both. Granted, they really had to dig deep and scratch and claw, and all kinds of
Yeah,
shit had to happen in order for them to even make it this far.
yeah.
But it ends up being a Switzerland matchup here in the quarterfinal. I'm interested to see what you think. With the Swiss chances against Argentina, uh, and maybe just what you see unfolding in that one.
Switzerland have to go for it. That's exactly what Egypt did, and Cabo Verde. Um, that Argentine back line is very suspect. You got to put pressure on them, and you have to. I just worry about this type of matchup for Switzerland because they're a team that structurally are very good, but simultaneously it takes a while for them to get going. And I worry a little bit about that because again, they have to go for it. It can't be a matter of being slow and build up play. Both of Egypt's goals were counterattacks, and even the disallowed one was a counter. So they love to push up and be aggressive, and you got to counter that. You got to play fast. You got to play quick against them. And I wonder, we did see Scaloni make a change for Julian Alvarez. He wasn't impressive. Lautaro did come on and make a bigger impact. I wonder what direction he's going to go there. And then, of course, Vince is talking about, the need to have Simeone on there because, for the most part, in the knockout stage so far, Argentina's midfield has struggled, in terms of keeping up, um, and they've been getting exposed quite heavily. But I'll tell you this: if the Swiss do have a 2-0 lead, they're not going to come. Argentina won't come back from that because the same mistakes that Egypt made defensively, the Swiss will not make those type of mistakes. That's not who they are. That's not their brand. They are very sound, very disciplined. But again, I worry about Switzerland generating chances, and that's why I think this matchup favors Argentina in that light, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll obviously acknowledge that I think Argentina are the favorites. I think that goes without saying. But I don't know. I do think this have a legitimate shot. I mean, I think it might play out maybe slightly differently than the previous two opponents. With both of those African nations really doing a great job against Argentina in their own right. I mean, you mentioned Egypt hit them on the counter. Cape Verde, played outstanding. Um, I think Switzerland, man. They're just one of those sides. I give them a lot of credit. I really do. I think they're comfortable in who they are. They know what they're good at. Those guys have all played a ton of matches together. I think they'll be comfortable in that match, and I think obviously Argentina are the favorites, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that they're just gonna walk over the Swiss. It's a side that has a lot of experience playing together. Like I mentioned, I do think I don't know what the injury update is on Johan Manzambi. I'll have to see what that's looking like. I know it's looking like he's going to Newcastle. But he's been big for them, whether he starts or comes off the bench. I think though, I think Switzerland will have some chances, and even against Colombia, I know they didn't actually score a goal, but they had a couple of pretty good chances, and I think that back line is really good, man. They and they all do a good job of defending together. Even beyond the back line, they all, like I said, that I think they'll be tough. Whether they advance or not, I won't go so far as to say that, but It's not going to be, some walk in the park for Argentina too. If they had to work for it with Cape Verde and Egypt, I don't assume anything different will happen with the Swiss. It wouldn't surprise me if this is another match that goes 120 minutes. Give you with an extra 30 in there. Um, I think Switzerland will be comfortable in the fact that this is honestly, I think it's a great tactical stylistic clash because you mentioned the Argentinian back line and they've had issues conceding goals, and then the Swiss are really tough to break down. Argentina feels like it inevitably score about two or three a match. So I think it's a really good stylistic clash. I think it's going to be. I think of all the quarterfinal matchups, I think if Norway England is the best on paper, I think Argentina Switzerland is the most intriguing from like a tactical standpoint. Um, so because I think it'll be fascinating to see which side makes the other one play within their style a little bit more. And for example, will Switzerland be comfortable and if they have to match Argentina's tacticality, and will Argentina be comfortable if they have to kind of adjust to the Swiss and how they want to play? Um, so I think it's gonna be a fun match. Whether Switzerland advance or not, I think they have a shot. I think obviously Argentina are the favorites, but it's gonna be a fun one, man.
Yeah, and your note on Manzambi, when I saw the news of his transfer to Newcastle being imminent, I thought of you. I remember back
Yeah,
when we were previewing this and talking about the groups and whatnot,
yeah, there you go.
and talking about in the early group stage, you brought him up, and yeah, good for him. Newcastle's a great place um, for youngsters, wanting to play competitive. Sometimes you'll be in the Champions League with them. They develop these players really well. I'm also thinking of Bruno Guimaraes. It seems like he's gonna make his move to Arsenal any day now, as long as Arsenal meet the conditions and whatnot. So, yeah, that's a great move for him. That's a good move in his professional career, and it'll definitely he'll be talked about a heck of a lot more. And yeah, just following up on Switzerland. I think midfield wise, it's gonna be in between. Can Granit Xhaka have an impact? Can he sustain himself? And yeah, you need Embolo, you need Vargas and Doy to be clinical, play fast, take on Lissandro and Cuti Romero and test Emiliano Martinez.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun one, man. So, just to put a bow on this bad boy, any concluding thoughts? And obviously, not just on the matches, but then with your French. We started with your French, and it's a big day for them. And any last thoughts on that as well?
Hopeful Chouameni comes back. Miss seeing him out there. Jorge Jesus, at 71 years old, gets appointed as Portugal head coach days after Roberto Martinez leaves. I question this hire so much because, first of all, bro, when I saw posts about it, I thought that this was fake because I was like, no way, just days after. You don't even conduct a search. You don't even wait to for the end of the tournament because maybe more coaches might, resign or leave and or whatnot. Like your mind was made up already right then and there to hire somebody who has been coaching for like 50 years at this point in his career, and you don't want somebody long term, to build with your generation. You have a lot of young players in that Portuguese team. You don't want the same coach. I wonder how long he can be there. I mean, he hasn't coached in the Power Five leagues. I make a college football note there, Power Five, and the
Yeah.
top European leagues. In ages, like, is he? Are you that confident in him? Like, or did you hire him because he's a CR7 yes man, and they just won the league together at Al Nasser in Saudi Arabia? Like, what what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, I really thought that was fake. I was shocked and surprised when that was confirmed. And I couldn't go on this episode without just speaking about it and really questioning the motives and the moves here.
All right. Yeah. I think you mentioned that one. That's a fascinating one for sure. Especially because you wonder what the long term vision is there, and if it's maybe more of just a short. What's the long term play there? I guess is a very valid question.
Yeah, like, I mean, is he just gonna stay for the Euros and then move on, or I mean, like, who who,
Is
who
Ronaldo going to
knows?
play at the Euros?
What's that?
Is Ronaldo going to play at the Euros?
Ooh, I mean, we're 2 years out. Well, given they hired Jorge Jesus, I'm leaning yes.
I guess we'll have to come back in due time, because I know Ronaldo said he's not coming back for the next World Cup, but that's obviously him. He'd be like what 40, 45, 46.
Yeah, he'll be 45, but also remember in 2016, after Chile beat Argentina on penalties, we
Yeah,
saw Messi crying, and he said that he's not going to play for Argentina anymore.
and here we are a
And
decade
here he
later.
is. Yeah, yeah, here he is. So
Yeah, shit, man. If anybody's gonna play at 45 at the World Cup, it'd probably be
it's
Ronaldo.
him. Uh-huh, it's him.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. But hey, dude, congratulations to your French. I know. Like you said, the job for you and for them is not done, and obviously three quarterfinal matches to go before we get to the semifinals. But enjoy. What's the old cheesy saying? It's not about the destination; it's the journey.
Yeah,
Obviously, it is about the destination in this case because then the journey was completely, but in this case, you haven't gotten where you wanted exactly, but enjoy the victory regardless while you can before moving on to the semifinals. Don't take it for granted, right? So
appreciate you. Yeah, my butt cheeks will be clenched starting Monday.
there you
Monday
go.
night.
There you
Yep.
go. Maybe they haven't been fully clenched yet, but we're getting to that. We're getting to that point of the tournament where
Yeah.
it's getting closer and closer, and that's when
Yeah.
you really start to feel the cheek tension for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, but it's party, man. Congratulations once again. Excited to come back and chop it up ASAP.
Yeah, appreciate you, bro. I mean, hopefully on Saturday we'll get together and we can do some live coverage, right?
Yeah, hopefully, either Saturday or Sunday, one of those 2 days, maybe one combination of the sort for sure. So either live during the games or maybe Sunday, we'll do it live and in person. But we'll recap the quarterfinals and with the look ahead of the semifinals. So fingers crossed, knock on wood, we'll line it up for either or both.
Sounds excellent, boss. Appreciate you as always.
Hey man, I appreciate you, man. And once again, congrats on a quarterfinal victory, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy. Talk soon. All right.
Peace.
Peace.